I appreciate the reminder. So see if you, okay, great. No, I'm here, all good. And
okay, welcome everybody. I'm Stephanie Frederick. I'm the land use chair for Brentwood Darlington Neighborhood Association. And I welcome you all. I'd like to call on each of you and ask you to say your name, the intersection nearest where you live, and what your land use interests or worries or preferences or desires might be. All right, I'll start with Pam. Go ahead, Pam.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pam Hodge. I live at 58 Sand Harney Drive, and truly I'm interested in all of these issues. If I had to prioritize, I would say it would be climate action. But I also serve on the Citizens Advisory Committee for the TGN Planning effort, so I'm pretty involved in that as well.
Thank you very much, Pam. Okay, Jenny Hartnett.
Hi, everyone. So I'm the former land use chair for the Lentz Neighborhood Association. And I'm actually here because my company has been named as a partner with Portland Bureau of Transportation, so PBOT. And I'm just here to listen in and hear what the concerns are, and also be able to advocate when necessary with the Bureau with you all's concerns.
Oh, very fine. And what is your company and what is its name and what do you do?
So Four Forces Inc. and I am the CEO and Director of Outreach.
And what does the company do?
So we do consulting for outreach for the city of Portland, Multnomah County, Clackamas County, the Fair Housing Council of Oregon, many clients. So the whole state of Oregon, and we're starting to work into the state of Washington too as well. But we do outreach, transportation justice, climate justice, and also housing.
Fabulous. So it's called Four Forces Inc.
Correct, Stephanie.
So be the new, if I search for it on Google, it will be the number 4 and then Forces Inc.
It'll be spelled out, Stephanie. So Four Forces.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh boy, so you're an outreach person. Oh, we are very happy to welcome an outreach person. Outreach is a big challenge. So, oh, well, thank you very much, Jenny.
And a neighbor from Lentz.
Yeah. Well, welcome. Okay, how about Kelly Hunter?
This is actually Zach Hunter, Kelly's husband. Kelly is caught up doing schoolwork and trying to finish up her workday. Oh, she's on. Never mind. I'll let her speak for herself.
All I heard was my name. I didn't hear. Am I doing an introduction?
Yes, please, just very brief. Your name, approximately where you live, the nearest intersection, and the kinds of land use and things that you're interested in or worried about.
Okay, I'm Kelly Hunter, she, her. We live on the corner of 64th and Cooper. I am mostly interested in improving transit and non-car centered transportation in our neighborhood.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, welcome. Okay, how about you, Zach? We know where you live, so you don't need to say that. What are your interests?
So my interests kind of overlap with Kelly's, though I would probably include trying to increase canopy cover in the neighborhood here, and kind of further green our areas, particularly, you know, our communal unimproved spaces like Cooper, for example, or similar unimproved roadways.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. All right. And Maria, let's hear from you.
yeah, hi, my name is Maria. I live on 57th and Henderson. And my dream would be that I can take my kids on the bike safely from A to B within our neighborhood and not worry about their safety.
Okay, that's a worthy goal. Well, welcome all of you. I'm pleased to have you here. I'm going to rearrange the agenda a little bit because of new developments that have happened just in the last day or so that are very interesting. I want to make sure that we address those and get any responses or feedback. So first, I will talk briefly about local climate action. Then I want to go down to air quality and talk to you about this business called Eagle Trailer, which is of concern to us here in Brentwood, Darlington. They make trailers and they've got a paint booth and they want to emit lots of noxious VOCs and nitrous oxides and so on. So I'll tell you about that in a moment and where we stand in our contest of their desire. Then I would like to talk to you about the Brentwood Darlington Community Center. There's some very interesting stuff going on with BDCC that affects our ability to do certain things and impacts ability to do certain things. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll go back and pick up other items. But I feel that the climate action, the air quality, and the BDCC are ones that we should prioritize. So first on local climate action, as you may know, the city of Portland and Multnomah County together adopted in 2015 a large climate action plan that has 4 action categories and then 1 resiliency category. You know, how do we survive the situation that we've created so far? And I have studied the first 4 categories, and then I will take on resiliency. But the one thing I want to point out is that the plan is way behind schedule in its implementation. So this is not good. Separately from this plan, 1 year ago, in June 2020, the City Council adopted a climate emergency directive. It's not clear to me yet exactly how that melds with the 2015 climate action plan, but it had a long list of things that the city wants to accomplish, although most of them are couched in very kind of mealy-mouthed language. We will support, we encourage, we call on, we will assist, we will look into the type of language. The worst part for me anyway is that it establishes some new emissions reduction goals, carbon reduction. And the statement of the city is as follows: that the city of Portland adopt a new target of achieving at least a 50% reduction in carbon emissions below 1990 levels by 2030 and net zero carbon emissions before 2050. These targets will be carried forward into future climate action plan updates and work plans. I don't like this goal for the following reason, that net zero is not zero emissions in any way. It's a pay to pollute program that many climate scientists now are appalled by. And the idea is you just keep emitting carbon and other heat trapping molecules. And then you find some carbon sinks. You know, maybe you say that you plant a forest somewhere, or you, revegetate a peat bog somewhere, and then you claim all kinds of carbon sink values for it. In a rapidly changing climate, it's very difficult, it's more and more difficult to find these carbon sinks. All kinds of companies are competing for them, but it's very iffy and difficult to say what value they really have, or how much of a sink they represent. And big fires like the Dixie Fire and the Bootleg Fire are burning up forests faster than we can plant new forests. So it becomes kind of ridiculous to say, we'll reduce emissions to be 40% below 1990 levels by 2030, and then we'll just keep polluting, but we'll, maybe we'll buy a peat bog or something. It's very disingenuous. And when you call the department, the bureau that's in charge of this, which is the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, the employees there tell you that the 2050 objective is 100% emissions reductions, and that's not so. And in fact, it didn't make sense. And so I finally went back and looked at the actual wording of the council's climate emergency directive. And in fact, it says net zero. And for me, that's not okay. So that is something I am going to be advocating against. They need to change that. It is misleading, disingenuous, and useless. Aside from that, the climate emergency directive, which is a year old now, is way behind schedule. There was a staff report made last week, and the staff said, there's not enough money, there's not enough staff, there's not enough resources. The whole burden almost is only on the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability. We are way behind in the implementation. So both climate efforts of the cities are way behind. And this is bad news. This is, it seems to me that the city council, once it had adopted this fine sounding language that you find in each one of these things, they then turned their backs and said, okay, we've taken care of the climate thing, and have not watched over it at all for 6 years in one case and 1 year in the other. So we're in trouble in Portland, and so that's one of the reasons, besides the IPCC report number 6, that I want to, I'm planning to cut back on my land use activities responsibly though, and I'm still going to carry out what land use is supposed to, but I am going to be putting a lot more effort into climate action going forward. And then as a point of interest, I just wanted to say that there's a big planning effort going on down in our area. It's basically a 3 neighborhood and parts of 2 neighborhood planning effort. And one of the things that we learned is that the worst heat island in the study area is in Brentwood, Darlington. It's at the intersection of Flavel Street and 72nd. And the heat island encompasses this gigantic asphalt playground at the school, the streets, which are asphalt, the asphalt roadways in the trailer park there, and then the asphalt parking lots for grocery outlet, and then the 3 Sisters, and then there's some sort of a, I don't know, drug store on the northwest corner. And this is the worst heat island in the whole study area. So I found that extremely interesting. And obviously it's a candidate for, especially at the school, ripping up the asphalt. So maybe that is something that Brentwood Darlington can work on in the near future. So then before I leave climate action, are there any questions? I won't be able to answer them, but I'd like to know the questions anyway. Have you all read the 2015 Climate Action Plan?
I've skimmed it. I haven't read it in detail.
Okay. And how about others? Has anyone looked at it at all? Okay, well, so I urge you to take a look at it. You don't need to study it.
Is that the same, or is part of that the 2030 bike plan of the city?
No.
That's a different one.
The city has many plans. This is called the Portland Multnomah County Climate Action Plan.
Okay, no, I don't know this one. Do you? Okay, I'll Google it.
And then to read the Portland Climate Emergency Directive as well. So, because it's good to know what the city is aspiring to, so that then we can try to hold their feet to the fire and make them accountable for actually accomplishing these things. You know, we're suffering, people are dying, and we need to prioritize climate action everywhere across the world, and start right here at home.
I am curious to know what the study area for the heat island study encompassed. Is that just an east side thing? Is that a southeast thing?
Okay, so it's not a heat island study. What it is a planning effort by the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability and PBOT, funded by a grant from the state of Oregon, as being carried out by city staff. And the study area encompasses Woodstock neighborhood, Brentwood, Darlington, Mount Scott, Arleta, the Foster Road section of Foster Powell, West Lentz, and apparently a portion of Ardenwald Johnson Creek. So it's called Lower Southeast. And
Sure, okay.
the main focuses of study are the transportation, that includes street safety, street transportation, bicycling, walking, and then also transit. And they've got a very good firm that is going to be looking at rerouting and enhancing transit service in that area that I just described. Also, we're going to be looking at how we can rezone in order to spur, in order to attract businesses that we can walk or bike to, rather than having to drive up to Woodstock or down to Clackamas to do our shopping and and carrying out other business. And then we're also going to be looking at anti-displacement measures. Brentwood, Darlington, and Lentz have low income and highly diverse populations. These skyrocketing land values are driving people out, and we don't want that to continue. And so we're hoping that we can find ways to stem that trend. Pam, would you like to add anything to what I've just said?
Well, I think you listed it in the agenda as part of the TGM study, because the lead planner, Marty Stockton, had sent us some information about heat islands, although that's not a primary issue of the TGM study. And I was just putting in the chat, for those who want more details about urban heat islands in the Portland area, PSU did an excellent study recently called the Urban Heat Island Mitigation Study, and it was by Professor Vivek Shandis. He's a professor of urban studies and planning, and it's got some excellent coverage in the media recently. So I'll put that in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Yeah, the whole heat island question is very fascinating to me, and so I just had to bring it up under the climate thing. All right, let's go down to the air quality. We're facing a little issue here. There's a down on Luther Road, which is and adjacent to the Springwater Corridor. So at Luther and Springwater Corridor is a company called Eagle Trailer Manufacturing, which makes trailers, and it has a paint booth to coat the trailers. And it's the area around it now is becoming very densified. There are apartment buildings and townhomes and condos being built around that area. It's no longer the environment that Eagle Trailer began its operation in. I'm not sure exactly when it began its operation, but Eagle claims that it's before the environmental overlay zones were applied to that area, which forbid the kinds of uses that Eagle Trailer manifests in its operations, but it's being grandfathered in. We are contesting Eagle Trailer's effort to secure an air quality permit to emit noxious gases. The only way that we can intervene at this point anyway is to respond to a Bureau of Development Services notification saying that Eagle Trailer is asking BDS to give it a statement of legal non-conforming status, meaning it's not supposed to be operating as it does, but since it began its operation back in, it's possibly 1984, but I'm not sure, then it has the right to continue operating. And the only way we can contest this is if it did not operate continuously or it did not begin business before the environmental overlay zones were instituted. So we contested it so far on the grounds that it has not been continuous. And the argument is that in 2008, the city of Portland issued permits to Eagle Trailer to rebuild the building that burned down that contained the paint booth. So I'm assuming that we can argue that while the building was not reconstructed, it wasn't, Eagle Trailer wasn't operating, but I'm not sure because I don't know if it has several paint booths and only one had to be rebuilt. It's very difficult to find out information about this, but in any case, we did put in an objection in time and using the language supplied by BDS saying we dispute that the operation has been continuous because that's all we had. But in the meantime, I saw from BDS's notification that Eagle Trailer has appealed to the Department of Environmental Quality of the state for an air quality permit. And I asked myself, why didn't it already have one? Why is it asking for not a renewal, but a permit? And so I was able to get in touch with DEQ, and a very helpful person there told me some interesting things that may also be helpful in our battle with Eagle Trailer. And that is the following, that a couple of years ago, DEQ somehow found out about Eagle Trailer. I don't know how, but they learned what its operation was and saw that it has never had any kind of permit to emit noxious VOCs and CO2 and nitrous oxides. And so DEQ reached out to Eagle Trailer and said, you need to apply for a permit and we need such and such information from you. And Eagle Trailer has been very uncooperative in providing information requested by DEQ. And so there are now two tracks of effort at DEQ with regard to Eagle Trailer. And one track is appealing to DEQ's Office of Compliance and Enforcement to review the Eagle Trailer situation that it's been operating possibly since 1984 without a permit and has never made effort to secure a permit and is now being recalcitrant in providing information to DEQ. And so Eagle Trailer might end up getting fined by this branch of DEQ. But in the meantime, to go back to the permit side, that's the other track, DEQ is determined to have Eagle Trailer get a permit. Because our position is we don't want them to even continue operating, but we can't we have to argue at the local land use level, which is focusing only on whether Eagle Trailer had continuous operations and whether it began its business before the environmental overlays became in effect there. But if Eagle Trailer does get a permit, it will help somewhat to reduce odors. It would abate some emissions, not very much, he said, but something. And they would have to do record keeping. They would have to train their employees for safe operation of the paint booth. And I've been reading a little bit about paint booths, and they are really poisonous to workers. And you have to wear special suits and handle these coatings and paints very carefully. And now that I see how Eagle Trailer operates, I'm sure that they don't teach their employees to, or it's highly likely they don't have their employees working safely there. So anyway, I did check with the Secretary of State to see if I could figure out when Eagle Trailer began operation. Now, it didn't register with the state until 1998, and the overlay zones went into effect in 1991, but they could still have been operating, without a permit, without being registered since before the environmental overlay. So I don't think that registration date is going to be helpful to us, but I do think that there is some way that we can use Eagle Trailer's failure to ever try to get a permit against it. So that is where we stand right now with Eagle Trailer. We did contest its request to get a legal non-conforming status designation from the city of Portland. And then I believe that even if the city rules in Eagle Trailer's favor, I think that we can contest, again, we can contest the decision, but I'm not quite sure because this is all very new to me, and everything I'm telling you is something I've learned recently. But anyway, we're going to fight this all the way. We just can't keep doing business as usual in this time of climate collapse. And then again, the environment there around Eagle Trailer has changed rapidly. It's no longer a big open space. It is filled with, it's filling up with townhomes and apartment buildings and so on. So I have more research to do. I need to try to find out from whether there are other parts of the city that can help us oppose Eagle Trailer's operation on the basis of its having failed to ever secure a permit. So it didn't register, the Eagle Trailer didn't register with the state till 8 years after the environmental overlays went into effect. And now it's finally reaching out to get a permit, but only because DEQ reached out to Eagle Trailer and said, hey, we see you, we know what you do, and you have to be permitted. And the permit is such a bad word because it sounds like it's just like license to do whatever you want. But in fact, a permit has conditions. And so at the very worst, for us, from our point of view, Eagle Trailer will emerge from this with a permit that puts some limits on its operation. But the very best thing would be to make it move. So we'll see. Are there any thoughts or questions about this situation, Eagle Trailer? Well, I hope you all support.
Stephanie, I have a question. Has there been any petitions or reaching out to the developers, housing providers, or the community that is near Eagle Trailer?
No, and what I haven't done that yet because it was so important to respond directly to the notification. And but now that we know about some more about the history of Eagle Trailer and the fact that the area all around it is heavily densifying and rapidly, it might be worthwhile to solicit, I don't know, signatures on a petition that goes to the city saying, hey, you know, we don't want to be poisoned, and this isn't okay to have this continue here, especially since they've been operating so illicitly for decades. So, but the short answer is no.
I wonder if it would be worth it to reach out to, sorry, Jenny, if I cut in there, I saw you unmute, but I just wonder if it would be worth it to reach out to the developer who's building all those apartments and condos that are down there, because are those done yet? Because that could impact who decides to ultimately move in there.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that, I mean, what would we want from the developer? Of course, what
You would want their support, Stephanie, because they're going to be the biggest backing to supporting you with the efforts that you're making, because it's going to be important for them to want to make money and to also finish their development. So this type of situation with Eagle Trailer is not going to, is not going to be appealing for their business. So if you're able to reach out to that developer strategically, you would be able to have more support.
could you reach out to the developers strategically?
I can reach out to the developer. I will locate and find out who the developer is. And I have your information too, Stephanie, and I can get them in contact with you where you guys can have a conversation about what the concerns are.
That would be hugely helpful to me, because I am overextended at this time and trying to contract my commitments so that I can do things better instead of being so spread out and racing from one item to the next. So if you could possibly help me, that would be fabulous. Just even finding out who the developers are. I mean, there's several different developments in that Luther Road area. So this may be more than one developer, but I'm not sure. But Jenny, if you could do that, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, that is something that I can do. I'll figure that out and then I'll get you connected with them.
So then are you going to submit a bill? Or we could say this.
No, I don't do that.
Okay.
No,
right.
I don't do that. No.
Okay, just
Try.
just checking.
That's for the city and corporations and etc. I'm a partner
Okay,
when
fine.
it comes to, when it comes to you all, I'm a partner.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, thank you so much. I need all the help I can get, because I'm going to be spending tomorrow reaching out to the city, trying to find out whom we appeal to with regard to the renewal of this, with regard to approving the legal non-conforming status of Eagle Trailer. We want to block that. So I want to concentrate on that, and then I can turn to the developers once you find out who they are. So thank you. That'll be great. Okay, now I'm going to skip Portland Clean Air for the moment and go to but before I go on though, are there any other comments about Eagle Trailer or our position in opposing Eagle Trailer's operation? Okay, so hearing none, then I'm going to go on to the Brentwood Darlington Community Center, that's BDCC. So for those of you who don't know, we have a big building, a wonderful big building at Brentwood Park on 62nd Avenue, right in the center of our neighborhood. And it's called a community center, but it hasn't really operated very much as a traditional community center. And for the most part, it has housed programs run by Impact Northwest, which is a social services agency that his main focus is averting homelessness, but they also offer lots of services to ethnic communities and seniors and youth and so on. It's a wonderful organization. and it has the responsibility for operating the building, which means paying the bills and renting out space and sharing it with us and making lists of everything that needs to be repaired. It's also supposed to keep the building in good repair, and that has not really happened, but the new executive director is very interested in two things. One, rehabbing the building. Needs a new roof, it needs a paint job, the kitchen needs to be updated. There are furnishings like the blinds inside that are broken and need to be replaced and so on. So Impact has this legal responsibility to keep the building in good shape. And the Brentwood-Darlington Neighborhood Association has privileges in the building. We are able to reserve space and use it, but we don't have to pay for it the way others do. And we have the use of the kitchen, the tables, the chairs, and the kitchen and so on. And we have some storage space there as well. We've had this arrangement with Impact Northwest for years, ever since the building was built. But since our records from before 2005 have vanished, we don't know why we have this arrangement, but we are intent on keeping it. And so we hope to, we're creating a little informal agreement with Impact Northwest that spells out our privileges and our responsibilities and so on. So one of the responsibilities from Impact's point of view would be to partner with them to help make the community center be used more vibrantly and serve the neighborhood more as a community center than it has done in the past. And so to that end, we've been working with an assistant to the executive director, we being Chelsea Powers, the chair of BDNA, and I, and then this woman named Delilah Boyd Watts. And so we've got we've got quite a few nice ideas for using the building and making sure that, that the neighborhood knows about it and feels welcome there and so on. So that is one aspect. Impact Northwest would like to get grant money to rehabilitate the building, but we've run into a problem, and that is we cannot figure out who owns the building. We know that the Portland Public Schools owns the land on which the building stands, but no one can find any legal documentation to say who owns the building. And so I spoke with someone at Multnomah County yesterday who told me that Multnomah County has attorneys working on this question of ownership. They've been looking at it as they can for 2.5 years, and they cannot figure it out. Now, the school district doesn't want to claim ownership of the building, and I don't see Multnomah County rushing forward to claim ownership. Impact Northwest is not trying to claim ownership. There is a remote possibility, but it's greater than zero, that the BDNA is a candidate to claim ownership. But we have to do a lot more research on this. And so we're trying to find out details about the incorporation and dissolution of a nonprofit back in the period from 1994 to 2005. This nonprofit was especially put together to be able to receive money and then oversee a contract to build the building, and then was supposed to occupy it or run it. The nonprofit then sublet the building to Impact Northwest to operate. The BDNA was part of this original nonprofit organization. And so we're interested to see what form the dissolution took, because it's very possible, not very, it's remotely possible that BDNA survived the dissolution on its own and has some real interest in this building. Now that would be an amazing outcome. And well, all I can say about it is that we're trying to find out. But so right now we have an ownerless building, and it makes it very difficult to proceed in certain directions. For example, Impact Northwest tried to get a loan a few years back and to rehab the building with, and it put up the building as collateral, and the bank it had applied to refused to accept the loan because the ownership of the building could not be proved, could not be shown. So now Impact is trying to get grant money with which to rehab the building, but there might be a problem even with being legally able to accept grant funds, amazingly enough. So we're working very hard to try to nail down who owns this. I wanted to help Impact apply for house batteries like Tesla Powerwalls to install in the building, and then charge either from the grid or from solar that would be put on the roof, so that the building could be offered as a warming center in the winter and a cooling center in the hot summers, and would be able to do so even if there were local power outages. So we were able to offer BDCC as a warming center this last February, but we're very lucky because the power went out all around BDCC, but not BDCC itself, but it could have lost power. So we want to have a backup system that will guarantee power in the building. And it's really important because down our way, we don't have any warming or cooling centers. BDNA is, the Brentwood Darlington and the whole area down here is pretty bereft of services to the people who most need it. So, but, I was thinking of applying to the Portland Clean Energy Fund, which has another round of grant making coming up and has lots and lots, millions of dollars to spend. And so I thought it would be a perfect project to perhaps put solar tiles on the roof or a new roof with a solar array, and then enough house batteries to keep the building operating for 5 days or whatever, and then be able to serve the community. But we could end up in legal hot water if we are accepting, or if Impact is accepting grant money, but doesn't have title to the building. So we're in a very strange situation here where we want to use the building, we want to update it, but because of this title problem, we're kind of stymied. So that is my update on the building. Isn't that interesting, everybody? It's
I can't believe it. Stephanie, I have a question about that.
Sure.
How do you feel? Where are we at right now? Like, who is could the BDNA, if the board all agreed, like, yeah, let's do this, we want to claim ownership, could you move forward and just go for it? Or who are we waiting on to make a decision? It seems like nobody seems to have a document, so nobody's going to be able to have the authority to actually be like, this is what we're going to do. So what do you think is the best way? How are we moving forward?
Well, it was only yesterday that
Oh,
we learned that Multnomah County attorneys can't even figure it out.
I didn't know.
So there hasn't been enough time to react, but it has crossed my mind today. Oh my gosh, what if we said, okay, let's just forget trying to figure out the ownership thing anymore and have some entity claim ownership? And would the BDNA be that entity, or should it be Impact, or should it be the county or the school district? I don't know. It could be any one of those. I don't think the school district is interested in having responsibility for the building. Maybe Impact would. I don't know whether we have.
Hasn't Southeast Uplift in the past managed some buildings that they then leased for below market value to, projects that they supported for what they offered to the
They
community?
could be our fiscal sponsor, but essentially we would be the owners. I mean, yes, we could work through Southeast Uplift.
Okay.
And, but I'm just worried about our resources. Our board size is very tiny. Our committees are basically unmanned or unwomaned. And so in this age of the internet, where the neighborhood associations no longer serve as the primary information source and forum. You know, we have all these Facebook groups, for example, Neighbors Connected Brentwood Darlington, or Connected Neighbors Brentwood Darlington has 1,000 members, and there are people posting on there every day all kinds of things, and PBOT posts notices on those Facebook pages. And so the neighborhood associations are in a very weakened capacity right now. So I would be afraid to claim ownership, but I don't want to abandon the idea. I'm just sharing with you that it makes me shake all over the very thought, but still maybe there is a way to do it. I don't know. Pam, would you like to weigh in on this?
Yeah, I think it's helpful to know the history. So the creation of the Brentwood Darlington Community Center was spearheaded by a now deceased Multnomah County Commissioner called Tanya Collier. And she arranged a ground lease by Portland Public Schools to Multnomah County that then immediately turned around and created this nonprofit that is now defunct, but it was the Brentwood Darlington Family Resource Center. And the whole purpose of the building of the center was to benefit the community, in other words, us, right? And when the nonprofit, the Brentwood Darlington Family Resource Center dissolved, I believe it was, I don't have the exact date in front of me. It looked for a community partner that was capable of taking over the operation of the facility, which happened to be Impact Northwest. And so there's a whole series of leases and subleases. There's this sort of chain of custody. You know, and we would argue that we are the logical successor to the defunct Brentwood Darlington Community Resource Center. Since nobody else is able to prove that they have ownership, certainly not Impact Northwest. I mean, they have occupied the building for over 20 years and they pay $1 in rent per year. So, you know, had we clearly owned the building, I mean, that possibly could have been a source of revenue for us. And it's really unfortunate, I think, that, you know, Impact Northwest did not establish a sinking fund for the maintenance of the building. And so here we are, you know, over 20 years later with a rundown facility in need of a roof, et cetera, and unresolved legal issues. So, you know, I think it's a great opportunity, but it's a bit of a legal mystery at this point. And thanks to Stephanie, who's been really digging into the files and making numerous calls to Portland Public Schools and Multnomah County, I think we're beginning to get to the bottom of this mystery. And I think it's just fascinating that the attorneys at Multnomah County have been working on it for 2.5 years and haven't resolved it. And it may be because nobody from the community have stepped forward to assert title. So I think it's worth a try. That's my personal opinion.
Well, that's a good point, that it could be a source of revenue. I forgot, I just didn't even think of that. So I just thought of the roof, the paint job, the kitchen appliances. But yeah, no, that's very interesting. We really would need to ramp up our own resources, though, in order to oversee the building or oversee Impact running the building, right? So that's kind of scary, but maybe we can rise to the occasion.
Well, you know, our community has risen to large challenges in the past.
Yeah.
And I think something like this may actually bring people to the fore saying we have this great opportunity, particularly with heat islands in our neighborhood and the opportunity of turning this center into one that, you know, truly focuses on community needs, you know, one of which is, you know, a cooling center to prevent deaths in the community.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I think, I think you and Maria are starting to make me feel less shaky on this point. Yeah, we should explore claiming ownership. And so anyway, okay, so I wanted to make sure that you all knew about this. In the meantime, while we're trying to sort out the ownership matter, then we are continuing with powering up programming for the community center. And the assistant to the executive director has a very vibrant assistant who has all kinds of ideas about how to use the community center. And she's hoping to work with us, or we've committed to working with her on having an autumn evening artisan fair in the parking lot of the community center. And we would be inviting artists and artisans from all over the neighborhood to come and sell their wares at this. And there would be music and food and so on. And it sounds like great fun. So that's just one of the ideas that we're working on right now. So we hope to see the BDCC, if all goes well, it's going to explode with promise and fulfillment of promise. And then we'll settle the ownership questions so we can get the grant money coming in, and we could really change things around here. So are there any other questions about the BDCC or any comments?
This is Zach Hunter. Sorry, excuse the toddler screaming. One thing that just occurred to me, I used to work for the community education section of Portland Community College. They are constantly looking for off-site facilities to house classes in, and will, you know, pay rents for such things, for like ASL classes, language classes, basket weaving, permaculture, whatever. That may be a good revenue stream, consistent revenue stream for a space like that. And it just occurred to me that there might be a little bit of overlap there.
That sounds great. I mean, I'm going to pass that suggestion on to Andy Nelson, the executive director. I'm sure it'd be lovely to work with Portland Community College and offer classes. I think that would be very exciting. Okay. All right, let's go back to, let's see, we have about 5 more minutes. I'll go quickly. Let's go back up to land use, the residential infill project. At the last meeting, when I was describing the residential infill project, which is a zoning program that eliminates the requirement that on a plot of land affected by that zoning, one could only build a single family residence. Now, you may build one such residence if you want, but you can also put in a duplex or a triplex or a quadruplex or whatever, depending on land size. And Portland, I'm proud to say, is the first city in the whole country to eliminate this single family zoning requirement, which has a strictly racial history and raison d'etre. And so I'm very proud of us that that we don't have this requirement anymore, that only single family residents may be built in vast swaths of the city. Those areas were designed to keep out Black people and other people. And they've been very successful in doing that all across the country. But now we're done with that. And so I think it's wonderful. But I was very worried about tree preservation, because it seemed to me that when you start putting multiple units on the parcel, you are going to squeeze out the trees. And we've lost a lot of trees here in Brentwood Darlington. And I was reading the old neighborhood plan from early 1992 that said Brentwood Darlington is known for its stands of Douglas firs. We don't have any stands anymore. We have lone Douglas firs here and there. And it's very sad that in 30 years, we've lost our stands. And I still see people cutting down trees with impunity. And so I'm become very worried about tree preservation. But so I worried aloud about the ability to preserve tree preservation and increase canopy here because of the residential infill project. But our TGN project manager, Marty Stockton, corrected me rather crisply at a recent meeting, saying that the person who was in charge of bringing the residential infill project into being is an ardent fan of trees, and that one of his goals was to make sure that there was room on the lots for trees. So yes, you may build a single family home, but it has to be way smaller. And they have a much smaller footprint on the land than what was allowed before, where you could build giant houses. There's one right around the corner of me that fills every square foot of the lot, except for a 5-foot, space around between the house and the fence and or property line. Now the houses they can be a little taller, but they have to be much smaller on the land, and there has to be room for trees. And the same thing with duplexes and triplexes and so on. The intention is to keep them small enough on each lot to make sure that there's room for trees. So I stand corrected. I'm still worried, but anyway, I just want to make sure that that I passed on to you. Marty's comment to me that, no, Stephanie, you were wrong. Morgan Tracy loves trees, and one of his main goals with this residential infill was to have more trees and preserve trees. So then before I go on, are there any questions about residential infill project and trees? Okay. All right. And just to go back to the TGN planning effort again, we described it earlier. The project managers are seeking people's opinions about life in the life they experience in the study area, and what they would like to see accomplished or changed or whatever. So please fill out the online survey questionnaire. Just Google Lower Southeast Rising. It will take you to the website, and there you'll see very prominently links to the questionnaire in English and in Spanish. And get your neighbors to do it. If you run into people at the store, ask them to fill it out. We need as many respondents as possible, and we have had quite a few and in Spanish. So this is very promising, but I'm here to urge you to please, reach out to people and not get them to fill out the questionnaire, and please do so yourself. Okay. And then let me just tell you briefly about housing sales and prices in Brentwood Darlington. And this is in keeping with my new focus, more on land use and development. And I'm not going to be doing the little newsletter anymore. It was very time consuming, and not enough people were reading it. So it's better to put that aside for the moment, work on climate, and then I'll incorporate some elements of the newsletter into the meeting. So one of those was housing sales and prices. And just let me say quickly that in Brentwood Darlington, 32 houses were sold in July. Their values ranged, the prices ranged from $265,000 to $601,000. As of August 7th, there were 24 for sale in Brentwood Darlington. Price range $350,000 to $875,000. So the turnover here continues. It's a very hot market here, and we haven't seen any slowdown at all. The land values are rising like crazy. My house has appreciated to the point where I wouldn't be able to afford it now. And so I'm of course grateful that I got it 4 years ago, because now I wouldn't be able to have it. But of course, this kind of a market puts a lot of pressure on people of low income, and I'm hoping that with the TGN planning effort, we'll be able to come up with ways to keep people who are low income in the neighborhood, and that may include building affordable housing, and investing in community land trusts, but also one of the planners at PBOT noted that up in Cully, Hacienda and other nonprofits are finding that just giving people money to pay the rent is a fabulous way to keep people in place. And so I think that's an aspect that we can explore also in the TGN planning effort. Okay, any questions on the housing market here? Okay, and now what time is it? Okay, 8 o'clock. Let me just pick up on one item here. I'll look, well, under transportation really fast. I recently put together a compendium of all the things that PBOT has been doing and is about to do in Brentwood, Darlington. And so if you've got the electronic version of the agenda, then you can click on the here under transportation and find that document. It's really amazing. We've had millions of dollars invested in our neighborhood, and it's really very exciting. We're very grateful. The other thing is I want to organize advocacy to reinstate PBOT's traffic calming program. I said one of the most frequent complaints I'm getting as land use chair is people saying that there's street racing, people speeding, people misbehaving in their driving. And I'm getting that from so many streets. And PBOT said they used to have a traffic calming program that had funding that allowed them to respond to those complaints, with, and they could just start slapping down speed bumps and safer crossings and flashing beacons and so on. But the recent, I guess the last couple of budget rounds have eliminated that traffic calming program, but we really need it. So I'm going to be reaching out to residents here to organize them to go hammer city council members to say, we have to have safety on our streets. People are afraid to walk and they're afraid to ride their bicycles because of the dangerous driving and the speeding. But that advocacy, I mean, if you want to reach out and just start, you could just email something to cctestimony@portlandoregon.gov, and your message goes to all council members. And you can just say, I want the traffic calming program back. But then I'm hoping to organize a more formal and vigorous advocacy. Okay, all right, that does it. Any questions or comments?
Hey, I have a comment.
Sure.
During the introductions, a couple people mentioned interested in alternative transportation like non-car and bicycle safety. And as part of the TGM study work, there have been some preliminary documents that address those issues. One is called the Existing Conditions Atlas with some excellent maps on existing transit and planned transit changes for our neighborhood. So that's available online. If you Google the Lower Southeast Rising study, you can just find the PDFs for those studies out there. And I think that would be very helpful in answering questions and knowing where the city planners are currently thinking.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Pam. That's great. The contractor who is studying transit changes for the TGN process is Jarrett Walker and Associates, and they are highly esteemed transit planning agency. And so we are super, super lucky to have them working on transit on our behalf. You know, we're in a wonderful position to see fabulous changes in our neighborhood, and the TGM process is a huge part of that. So we are very fortunate to have this, to have gotten the grant. We worked hard for it. We helped the city in its application for this grant. So we're proud of our effort. And now we think that we're going to, we being our whole area, are going to benefit hugely from it. So I haven't read the existing conditions yet, Pam, but I am going to, and I really look forward to it. And so in the chat, let's see, somebody said, oh, Kelly Hunter, you read the atlas and it's what inspired you to join the meeting. Oh boy, okay. Oh, thank you, Kelly. I look forward to reading it as well. Okay. All right, anything else? Okay, well, we will adjourn then. The next meeting is September 9th, and I'll be reaching out to people to organize this advocacy for the traffic calming program, continuing to work on the mystery of the BDCC, working on Eagle Trailer, and hopefully we'll see you at the next meeting. But if not, you know, I post minutes or little notes and so on about the meetings, so you'll be able to catch up in that way. So thank you, everybody, so much for joining us tonight. It was really good to have you. So stay cool and survive. We just have to make it to Sunday. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Maria.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll be in touch. Okay, Maria?
Yes.
All right.